So I originally got into photography to impress a girl.
Crosspoint, he was also working on like 3,000 photos to edit. Dude, walk us through that.
After a day, I ended up with about 2,500 photos, and then I
Jeez.
spent about 3 hours like trimming it down into probably like 300 to 700. Then I would trim that down to about 500, and then I'd edit all 500 in the same night. Number one is figure out what you're gonna say and how you're gonna say it before you say it. Don't be afraid to be yourself, because people hire you 50% of the time for your photos and 50% of the time because they think you're a cool person and they want to get their photos taken by you. You're gonna like make a whole bunch of mistakes along the way. It's just about how you move on from it and how you then carry yourself after your failure. Take it and learn from it instead of wallowing.
In this episode, we're pretty much going to be talking about how he got his start in photography, along with how his work has evolved over time, and what you should focus on as building as a photographer, and so much more. So, without any further ado, we're going to get right to this. But yeah, Hunter, so basically introduce yourself and tell us and the audience about what you do, and we can go from there.
So, my name's Hunter Park. I've been taking photos for about 5 going on 6 years. I typically tend to stick in the more wedding,
Okay.
portrait realm. I don't really dip my toes in anything else just because, that's what I prefer to do. And other than that, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Damn. Okay. So basically, with photography, like, how did you get yourself into that career field? Because most people, we want to look for a stable job, and we all know in this world of creative, it can be a little bit unstable at times. So I'm just curious, what really made you so confident into choosing photography?
It's just kind of what I love. I kind of fall into these situations where I have a shoot that gets me a different client, and it just kind of snowballs. Whenever you do one shoot leads to another, and eventually you end up doing it as kind of your whole life's work and your passion.
Did you ever have a career path before you chose photography?
Yeah, actually, I wanted to join the Navy. Which I
Mm,
mean, that
wow.
wouldn't work out for me, but yeah, that was the plan, and then I kind of found photography and do that and have fun with it.
Okay, wow. So in another life, you could have been basically I think I don't know my military term, but like a battleship cruiser, and you would be the copy version of Tom Cruise with a camera, basically.
Basically.
Also, to the audience, as you guys don't know, we actually Hunter and I actually go way back, way back into what like the Crosspoint days. That was like what 2018, 2017.
Yeah.
Yeah, we go way back, and he's been on some of the projects that I've worked on, from First No Play to Skylar Capri and Daniel Pratt, and I gotta ask Hunter, what were some of your memorable highlights of those projects that you and I worked on in those old days?
Well, that contract one with the whole makeup shenanigans, I can't
Yeah,
remember her name, definitely taught me how to have patience with a client. Um, because, it wasn't any fault of her own.
right.
It was a miscommunication on what makeup actually did to someone's face. And also you've got Skylar that taught me endurance during a shoot. That was what, 8 a.m. to 2 a.m. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Um, and that was like a 2 day deal, right?
Yeah, it was like the boxing ring. We were like up. We were supposed to be there for like 4 hours, and then we just ended up being there the whole entire day. And then Danny Pratt, I mean, that one, it's a funny thing. He and I just even though we kind of went on our separate ways, he actually hit me back about a potential project. So I probably could get you on that. And it's like, especially in Crosspoint. By the way, I first met Hunter at Crosspoint when he was at the office, and one of the things that really stood out about what he does with his work as a photographer was he always did this tilted thing, and it was like such a curiosity that sparked from my end. And also we had our friend named Yolanda. Yolanda, if you're watching this, hello. It's been a while. We should probably talk. We should probably hang out. But like when photog in Crosspoint, he was also working on like 3,000 photos to edit. Dude, walk us through that. At that time, walk us through that. How was it like for you?
So, for Mission Northwest, typically what I did was after a day, I ended up with about 2,500 photos, and then I
Jesus.
spent about 3 hours like trimming it down into probably like 300 to 700. Then I would trim that down to about 500, and then I'd edit all 500 in the same night.
Bro, really? That's wow. That's actually insane. And it's like with Crosspoint, it's I think it was like I would imagine it's one of those great learning experience, and I'm sure that pretty much propelled you to where you are now. So that's cool. So that again, everyone, that's our shared history. All right, let's get into this. So, what drew you into photography? And do you ever see yourself transitioning from being a photographer into a videographer?
So I originally got into photography to impress a girl. This was long, long time ago. I didn't end up getting the girl. We were still friends though, so it was all good. But I started taking photos with like my little iPhone 5S.
Oh wow.
Um, and after that, it just kind of snowballed. I ended up stealing my mom's SL1 and then, well, borrowing for the purposes of, I didn't actually steal it for your information. But then after that, I bought a Sony A7, took photos with that for a hot minute, and then I bought an A7R2 and use that to this day. Um, and videography, I mean, I don't think so. Photos are a lot
Really?
easier to tell a story with.
Really? Is it why not consider videography? Because like that's like yes, it's a different world, but it's also the skills that you develop over the years as a photographer. I would imagine that would translate very well in videography. But I'm curious, why not consider that?
It's all about patience and my
Mm.
lack of it. Um, so video project, you go through, you storyboard it, make sure you have all the equipment, you shoot it the day of, something probably goes wrong and you end up doing it another day or doing it for twice as long, and then you have to sit down and edit it all together. You have to find music, you have to find sound effects, you have to mix audio correctly, otherwise it'll sound wrong and someone on the internet will complain.
Yeah, that is why we charge a lot for our service, and most people don't understand the actual work that goes into producing the high quality work that we want to give to our clients. And like, I would imagine it's almost kind of the same thing with photography, even though it's a little bit more, it's less intensive. Because I was wondering, if you ever have you ever gotten into like those creative shoots where you actually design a concept and actually build out a set, that kind of stuff. Have you ever considered doing that?
Yeah, I actually have before, once or twice. Baby photos. Baby
Yeah.
photos, you technically have to go in and like make a whole set inside the person's house and use a speed light or a flash or steal a video light like I normally did and just set it up. Like I grabbed a like whatever the 300 series aperture light is from work
Mm.
and kind of set it up, and that was what lit the baby. Um, and like Christmas family photo shoots too, stuff like that. It requires a little bit of setup work, but most of the other setup work I've done is for like video shoot type deals. So
Oh,
yeah.
okay, okay. Because I remember in Crosspoint, if I remember right, there was that studio, with with the color backdrops. I remember this because I saw on one of your posts, like a way back a couple months ago, where it was Caden, with the red backdrop. That one's a good photos. They were good photos, by the way. I love that.
Yeah, that one. I mean, we just kind of. That was actually funny because I had needed my senior photos done, and she
Really?
was like getting into photography, and she recognized me at Black Rifle Coffee Company and was like, "Are you Hunter Park?" And I was like,
Oh,
"Yeah." And I was like, "I think I emailed you about senior photos, but I didn't actually put anything in on our website, so she didn't even know." And she was like, "That's
oh, okay.
crazy." And I was like, "Yeah, do you want to try out like studio portraits, and kind of have me walk you through the ropes?" And she was like, "Sure." So we went down the street from Black Rifle to the studio over at Crosspoint, and I walked her through like what a studio shoot looks like, how to pose people, and all that.
Okay, so that's how it actually happened. Wow. Okay, thanks. That's actually a great insight into that event because I was curious. I was like, okay, they probably set this up just to have fun, but cool. everyone struggles with finding their own style, especially when they first started out. And we typically like to incorporate them into what we like in our work from those creative people that inspire us. And eventually, as we combine it, it becomes into we find our own style from that. And so, with that question in mind, I was wondering how long did it take for you to find your own style?
About 3 years.
Damn.
My style was kind of like I just couldn't figure out the colors in the photos. I was
Okay.
getting so frustrated. I was like, bro, what do these sliders do? Why aren't they working for me the way they are for other people? And how can I make my work as good as other people's?
Okay.
Um, so I ended up going and I bought Chris Howe, Peter McKinnon, and Maddie Hajopa's, something like that.
Yeah.
Um, Lightroom presets, and then I combed through all of them, and I was like, okay, which ones work for my photos that I'm taking?
Okay.
And I found a preset that worked for me, and then kind of tweaked it a little bit, and I've been just tweaking it over the last 2 or 3 years to kind of work for whatever photo. And with Lightroom, you can like save a preset as and rename it like with your adjustments. So
Yeah.
I just have that little preset. It's called Wedding Photo One. It's what I use for pretty much everything.
How can you describe your style to the people that are looking at your work? How would you describe it?
Oh, um,
It's
that's
high
tough.
contrast. It's definitely high
Yeah,
contrast. If you look at the work, it's definitely high contrast. But I'll let you take it from here.
I try and use a lot of negative space.
Mm,
High contrast typically, if the situation calls for it. Muted greens a lot of the time, and muted reds. I don't like reds. I think they're ugly most times in cameras. Other than that, yeah, just kind of take your typical photos and bump up like contrast a little bit. And I like my bokeh. I also shoot wide open. I never shoot closed unless it's
whew.
like a group of
Oh.
people.
Ooh, we can't get over those creamy bouquet. Honestly, it's just so good. Yeah. So it's basically like high saturated and high contrast. I can see a little bit of like, I don't know if you added like an artificial glow in post production or if it's just a camera filter that you had in front of your lens. Because I could see some of those. So correct me if I'm wrong or not.
I've wanted a Pro Mist filter forever, but I haven't actually bought one yet.
All right, buddy.
Um,
What's your birthday?
December 8th.
Okay, you want one?
I would love one.
Actually, what's
Uh,
your filter? What's your lens size? I actually have an extra one, but I need to.
uh, Sigma 82.
I have the 77.
Ah, shucks.
Ah man, because I haven't touched it. It's literally like closed package. It's new. I could have,
Dang.
dang. Maybe I'll give it to you and you figure out what to do with it because I already have one. But anyways, back to this. I can see that in your work, like whenever if you guys look at his portfolio, you can definitely see that it's very diverse, and you have, your portfolio consists of from family portraits to graduation portraits, even wedding photography. So, with those in mind, I was just wondering, it's like, what were some of those things that made you choose those specific categories slash genres?
Well, for weddings, it's the money. You only do weddings for the money, in my opinion. Because weddings, otherwise, after the third one, it's just kind of a slog. Unless you really enjoy weddings, and there are people that do, and that's wonderful. Like, not hating on those people, but for me, weddings, that's it. You only do them for the money.
Right.
That because they're just exhausting. Editing them, going out and like traveling to get to them half the time. It's just a headache, and I'd much rather just go and do a shoot for like an hour and a half and be done
Right.
with it. If for 30 minutes even, like that's what most of my shoots have been recently, just 30-minute quick sessions. Um, Portraits, I enjoy them, going to different locations, seeing how I can play with the lighting, trying to figure out if I want them to be in shadow or if their skin tone looks better out in natural daylight or
Right.
anything like that. I don't know. I just enjoy it. I enjoy meeting people and kind of getting to know people, and that also kind of feeds into that.
Okay, so it's like it seems like you actually enjoy the spontaneity and the ability to just come up with great shots, even though you have it all planned out. It's a lot better for you to go out, like let's say the Eden Garden State Park here in
Oh yeah.
yeah, I would imagine you just go there and you can see so much potential, and that's so much better than weddings because like they're like structured. and that's pretty much it. I feel like you're not a. It feels like you're not a structured person. You like working outside of the box. Am I correct to assume
Yeah,
that?
100%. I
Yeah,
love working in the
yeah,
box.
yeah. But yeah, did you? Are you also thinking about exploring any other genres, or is there one that you're most interested in?
I really enjoy aviation. I'm talking to an airport right now, seeing if they'll let me take photos of their planes.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Okay.
that's really the only other genre I'm dipping my toes into. I have a Sigma 150 to 600 somewhere in this room.
Honestly, when it comes to describing our work, like for mine example, I would describe mine as very moody. I like high contrast and very colorful and saturated colors, and definitely lots of shadows. That's how I would describe my style. Now, describing it in a way that stands out that makes your work stand out from everyone else, I want to know what you can say for yourself. What can you say about you and your work that stands out from everyone else?
That's a good question. Typically, it's you don't really see many photographers posting images that follow the rule of thirds to Instagram.
Really?
Um, and I try and keep to that. I use that in negative space in a lot of my photos, but other than that, I mean, I don't. My editing style is kind of a black sheep amongst the low contrast, warm tones that you see
Yeah.
most shoots being in an Instagram, especially the beach ones in our area that I used to live in. That's pretty much all you'll see is low contrast, warm, and it's slightly tinted towards the greens.
Yeah.
I don't know. I love that style. I love the look of it. I just whenever I'm editing, I just never think it looks good on my photos. I don't know why, but yeah.
Mm. It's like that subdued. You don't like the subdued natural look versus the high contrast.
Yeah, I guess I just kind of go towards more high contrast, which I mean is natural. I
Hmm.
maybe I need to curb that.
Hey, I mean, all photographers, every creative will see the world in a different way. Some would like, I think a great example would be how would you describe Caden's style?
Exactly that. Warm, low contrast, amazing shots, very environmental album covery. She's really gotten into her element as of late. Like she took my senior photos. She did amazing. I was super happy with the results.
Wow,
Um, better
that's
than I
great to
could have done.
hear. And then like with yours, it's definitely high contrast. So guys, if you ever look at Caden Powell's work and then if you look at Hunter, you can definitely see that there's like two different styles. But again, like what I said, every creative, the beautiful thing about being a creative is that everyone gets to interpret the whole entire world, the same world that we look at through our eyes in a different lens, so to speak. No pun intended. But yeah. So now, Hunter, I was curious, what were some of the lessons that you learned from the challenges that you had to go through throughout your creative journey?
Number one is figure out what you're gonna say and how you're gonna say it before you say it. Because I remember there was a summer Mission Northwest that I made the mistake of I was young and naive at this time.
Yeah.
The mistake of going up to someone that was shooting at 128,000 ISO on a Nikon like D8000. And I was like, hey, you can't be shooting at 128,000 ISO. You're wrong. And as you could imagine, the reaction that someone would have to that is not what someone who's trying to give advice is looking for.
Right.
Um, you'll just incite anger instead of inciting, oh, yeah, you know, noise is not fun. You're right. Because you just have to be gentle about what you're saying and
Right.
don't ever talk in a condescending tone to people as well.
Sometimes when we feel like we're the excuse our language, when we feel like we're the hot shit, we tend to get the ego we tend to let the ego get the best of us and would that be an accurate thing to say that would that's what happened?
Um, yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah.
Some people think they're better than other people, and then they get put in their place, and then they're better people for it.
Yeah, and it's like, what have you learned from that? It's like, do you start to think about what you say, or do you just try to be understanding that they have a different style? What did you learn from that?
Don't mess with someone else's creative vision.
Yeah.
Not your creative vision to mess with. Go and make something that you want to make, but don't interfere with what other people want to make.
Hmm. Okay, what's the second lesson?
Oh gosh, I forgot the order that I did these in.
Yeah, by the way, guys, if you're watching,
Yeah.
just so you guys know, we this is the third time we tried to do this. The first time we had a lot of technical difficulties, and then the second time, everything worked out fine. And then it wasn't until we got to the end, and my computer just crashed. So I had to figure out a different setup within an hour, and then there's a third one. And so if it sounds scripted, that's why we pretty much ran through this interview three times. So third time's a charm. But what did you say the second time?
I can't I can't remember.
I
Um,
don't be afraid to make mistakes. I think that was the third one, but I don't know the second
yeah.
one.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Be the life of the party.
There we go. There we go. Yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Whenever you're out and whenever you are at a shoot, whether it be a wedding, a ball, or I mean, heck, even just a family portrait shoot, don't be afraid to be yourself because people hire you 50% of the time for your photos and 50% of the time because they think you're a cool person and they want to get their photos taken by you. Not the person that made your work, but the person that has your personality. If
Right.
you go to a wedding and you're Mr. Grumpy Sassy Pants in the corner taking photos on a 70 to 200, no one wants that person at their wedding. I mean, I don't. No, no, no hate on people that do, but I wouldn't. I'd want someone that gets in there, gets to know people, talks to people, builds contacts, and kind of knows how to integrate themselves into a party rather than standing on the outside of it and looking into it kind of like a creep.
So basically, like first impression matters the most, and I would imagine that's what keeps you, or at least provides you the long-term clients, because first impression does count, and along with the fact that you can be just as fun. Do you think that which of those two things do you think people that are starting off photography, which one do you think they should focus on? Their quality of the work, or how they present themselves as a brand?
Present yourself as a brand and then focus on quality because you can sell a turd if you know how to sell it the right way.
Right.
That's all I'm saying.
Hmm, that's a good one. And then third one?
Basically, you're gonna like make a whole bunch of mistakes along the way. You know, you're gonna drop a SD card in the pool. You're
Ooh.
gonna accidentally lose a client's photos. You're gonna, you know, accidentally leave your car door open and have your camera fall out of your car, or have a like 30-pound light fall on your head because you forgot to tighten the C-stand. You know, it all happens. It's just about how you move on from it and how you then carry yourself after your failure. Take it and learn from it instead of wallowing in the present. You can't just be like, "Oh, I failed. I'm never gonna do photos again after this wedding that I ruined." You know, you ruin a wedding. Okay, so what? Go do another one. Do it better.
Mistakes is usually the best teacher in terms of pushing into the next level as a creative. And how are you gonna get better if you don't open yourself up to failure? I know mistakes and failure are basically the same thing. It's just if you try to stay perfect all the time, bro, nobody wants perfect. So you mentioned earlier that you look up to a lot of creatives like Maddie Hapo. I don't know how to say his last name. You also mentioned Wanted Neoli, the YouTuber. Who's that guy? The
Good.
House, or no, the
Chris Dow?
no, he was a YouTuber, Peter McKinnon, and then yeah. So can you tell us why you look up to those people specifically?
Uh, well, they're just kind of examples of people who they make work that I really enjoy, that I really like to consume on things like Instagram and stuff like that. So I decided I would follow them, and I mean, you know, they're
Hmm.
they're wonderful teachers. They have a whole bunch of tutorials. Also, Ted Forbes on art of photography is wonderful as well. The Camera Store TV guys will teach you how to make your camera do all sorts of things you never knew it could before. They now work for DP Review TV.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Cool.
crazy.
As a photographer, where do you see yourself in the next 2 to 3 years?
That's a great question. I honestly don't know. I'm gonna be graduated from college, have a job maybe, and be in southern Minnesota. So might continue doing weddings up there. Might um, continue like traveling for senior portraits. I've I mean, I drove 5 hours today for a senior portrait session. Um, who knows? I mean, right now I just kind of have projects booked all over kind of Northwest Florida,
Oh, that's
and I
great.
might
That's
end
actually
up.
great to hear, dude. I'm happy for you.
Yeah, thank you.
But do you also imagine opening up a production company of some sort, not necessarily in video, but also for mainly like a production company that's mainly focused in photography?
Right now I have a little company, Hunter Park Photography.
Hmm.
Um, but probably not. I'm probably not making it any bigger. Maybe getting
Okay.
back into weddings, but
All right, guys. Just want to give you a heads up that for those of you watching this video, obviously there's going to be a big change with Hunter's video. I had to replace it with some image because during the interview, about halfway through, his camera died. But that's okay. And now, for those who are listening to this through a podcast app, everything's going to be okay. Now, before we get back to the conversation, I just want to say don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with your friends and family if you like this episode. Yeah, now let's get back into our conversation with Hunter Park.
I just enjoy it.
You just like enjoying, doing what you do and just making off money is like a basically like a bonus.
Yeah, kind of on the side.
Okay. All right. I guess now we're about to dive into the business side. Now, pricing is one of the biggest hurdles that many creatives tackle on when they're first starting out. So, walk us through your pricing process if you have one when it comes to working on with clients.
So, hey, first rule of anything involving money: if you don't want to do it, charge a ridiculous amount for it,
Okay.
and if they agree to it, then you just have a whole bunch of extra money this month.
Hmm.
Um, but other than that, I mean, typically it depends on the client, how many clients are included in this one photo shoot, where it is in relation to where I live, and what type of photo shoot it is. So for say like a college student that wants her senior photos done, I'll
Right.
charge 200, and then I charge 58 cents per mile outside of 20 miles of where I live. So that's 58 cents per mile is the Florida standard gas compensation rate. And that's a fair price for your travels, and it's a fair price for the client, and works out.
Hmm. You know, that being said, how did you ever overcome the struggle of feeling like, as creators we want to charge our worth, but for some reason, it's either psychologically speaking or whatever, we tend to undervalue ourselves so badly to a point where we're not even making a lot of money. So, how did you ever overcome the fear of charging a lot for what you think is worth for your time?
I hired a photographer. You'd never really know how important photos are to someone until you have a need for photos for yourself. Like for me, there was a moment I really wanted to capture in my life, and I ended up needing to hire a photographer. And I was like, yeah, I'm perfectly all right paying this amount. That's like double what I charge for my senior sessions. And after that, I just kind of stopped feeling bad for what I charged. I was like, this is how much I'm charging. I'm sorry. You can go and find a different photographer if you don't want to pay me that.
It's a great thing to hear that you're very secure and confident in what you do and what you provide to the client. It definitely has value. I think that's some of the mindset that's missing for those people that want to charge a lot but they can't. I think how would you how would you tell them to get to that mindset?
Um, hire have an important life event and hire a photographer for yourself, or just kind of understand that. Say for a wedding, the
Yeah.
dress costs $1,600. The food costs 3 grand. The venue's probably going to cost 2 grand. They're already paying 10 grand. It, to to capture all of these memories, to make all these investments worth it, you are required. So if you charge 25% of what they're paying for their wedding, that's okay. Charge $2,500 for a day. Um, or say it's their senior prom and their parents want to pay the money for the shoot. Most prom dresses are like ridiculously expensive these days. And I mean, those kids are going to only have one moment like that in their lives. It's not like a wedding. You can get married again. You're never going to have your senior prom again. Come on. So, I mean, for something like that, it's a lot more, worth it to capture that one moment and to pay the extra money to capture it correctly.
So there's basically to every client, there's a different sense of, I think, for the lack of a better term, sentimental value attached to the service that you're providing. So I think that those are the type of clients that are like the dream clients. Would you say it's the same?
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the best ones. Okay, so for any other creatives out there, we just want to know what some of your values that you uphold as a photographer, because and everyone else, we have so much different values, and that we place as the most important. And so, for example, others may have a strong focus on providing the highest quality of work, and while others focus on building the relationship with the clients. So, for you, what are some of the values that you uphold as a photographer?
Basically, just be the life of the party. I mean, um, I don't know. Photography is supposed to be fun. You're supposed to enjoy it. And if you can't enjoy it, why are you doing it? So learn to have fun. Learn to set down the camera every once in a while or you're at that wedding. Get on the dance floor. Go have a good time. You're there to make the um you're there to make the client happy no matter what. So
Mm.
I mean, you're definitely going to do that if you integrate correctly. Now, don't be creepy about it. Like if you think it's awkward for you to enter a situation like that, don't. But just go into a situation with the mindset of, oh, hey, I'm going to have a fun time doing my job tonight instead of, oh my gosh, I have to do a third wedding in 2 weeks. What is this? I'm going to go insane. I would have gone insane 2 summers ago when I did 24 weddings if I had that mindset. That was
Yeah.
ridiculous.
So basically, it sounds like your value is making sure that you don't let any negative emotions or anything that would deter the entire wedding experience, especially with clients. That's what you do. Is that I would imagine that's your value, making sure that everything that you do as a service comes out as a fun experience for the client.
Yeah.
Hmm. All right, guys, take that as a lesson. Now, the other thing that I wanted to let the audience know and learn from is how did you book your clientele? How did you build that up?
Um, oh gosh, that's a good question. Mainly through the church, actually. Most of my
Really?
clients. Yeah, working as a photographer for a church has its advantages. You're kind of like the only photographer people see every single Sunday. That's how I got my job at FloridaWeddings.com. That's how I got a lot of my senior shoots and
Mm.
two homecoming shoots last weekend that I drove all the way back to town for. Um, and I mean, yeah, just wherever you are, whatever you're doing, let people know that you're a photographer. Be like, hey, I take photos. Here's my Instagram. Follow me on Instagram. Make your main Instagram your photography Instagram. People will message you. They'll be like, hey, I like your photos. Do you want to take mine? Yeah, you do want to take theirs. Have some fun, you know?
What's the best method? Is it word of mouth or building up the work on your Instagram and hope to see and wait to see if somebody else wants to work with you? Or, like you said, church, just being there every day, taking photos. What is one most effective method of getting new clients out of all
Word
the
of
things
mouth.
that you mentioned?
Word of mouth, definitely.
Hmm.
That's how I've gotten probably 90% of my work ever.
Yeah.
It's just, oh, Susan told me, or my uncle told me that you're amazing at taking photos, and I saw you at her wedding 2 years ago. Do you want to do my wedding? That's how it goes.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
actually,
And I think that's like going back to what you said earlier. It's like as long as you provide an experience for every client, that's also another extension of word of mouth. Because if you make them feel good about the things that you're doing for them, they're gonna wanna share that to everyone. And when they ask, they're gonna ask about, hey, who's the photographer? Then they're gonna be like, oh yeah, that's Hunter. I love his experience. Everything. He just made everything feel good. And that's like another form of word of mouth that you don't even have to expend a lot of time of energy to find another client. That's definitely the best way to go. And also with your work, do you ever see yourself expanding into in a different country, different state? Where are you gonna go with that?
Minnesota, whenever I move out, probably build up a clientele over there. Moving to East Florida has been an interesting time in regards to clientele, but I'm building it up slowly. I mean, living in Northwest Florida for 8, 9, 10 years was
Whew,
very
that's a long
helpful.
time. Damn.
Yeah. But now I'm over here, been here for 2 months, working on it, you know.
Hmm. Where would you say is your dream ideal clientele market? Do you think
Uh,
that's here, or are the type of clients that you want to see more of somewhere else, like Midwest or the East Coast?
Definitely Midwest farmers that want to get married on their gorgeous farms.
Really?
Give me all the farm weddings. Yes, I love farm weddings.
Wow. Yo, that's actually a new thing I didn't that I just learned from you. Really? Explain. Can you expand on that?
I mean, yeah, your family owns a farm, they set up their little barns, all nice with lights, and they get married out in like the field, and then they come back and just have a ball. It's wonderful.
Wow. Oh, wow. Okay, cool. Now we're almost all right, guys. Everyone, if you're watching this, don't forget to like and subscribe if you like the content here. We're about to be closing our conversation. We're almost there. So, Hunter, looking back into where you are now in comparison to before, what is one most impactful lesson or advice that you would give to yourself from before?
Just don't be afraid to be yourself around clients ever. If they don't like you, they won't hire you. But if they do like you, they'll tell all of their friends about you. And I mean, that's the most important thing is word of mouth when it comes to creativity and I don't know, surviving in this space. So just be yourself. You're going to be more memorable if you aren't trying to be someone who you're not. And
Hmm.
as long as you do that, you'll go far. That's pretty much it.
Okay. Actually, something you said actually triggered a or some reminded me of something. It's like with the rise of social media, how do you go about that and providing that experience to clients when in combination to Instagram, social media, TikTok? What is your strategy and when it comes to promoting your brand as someone who's wanting to give an experience that's unforgettable? What is your strategy of doing that when it comes to social media platforms?
Um, just remember to document the event, not only with photos, but with video. Like if you're at a wedding, you know, get some video you dancing with the client or with, you know, or with their grandma or something like that. Just you having fun there and them seeing that you're having fun there. If your following sees that you're a fun time, they're gonna want you at their event. They're gonna want you at their wedding. They're gonna want you at their ball. You know.
Yeah, pricing and all of that. Do you also provide contracts, or do you vet
Yeah.
the client? How do you go about the vetting process and then getting them to sign the paper?
So I use FreshBooks. It is a
Really?
wonderful little application.
Okay.
You create a client like contact in there. It shoots them an email. You never have to like confront them about money once. It tells you if the client has viewed the invoice. It tells you if they've paid the invoice or not. And if they and you can like confront them if they just view it and don't pay it, and then that's that. I mean, I have a within 72 hours mandatory deposit of booking that's non-refundable,
Right.
um, unless like someone dies. And yeah, so just kind of make sure that the client's invested in you so they can't back out.
Okay. And was there any, if you can recall, did you have a business mistake that you learned from anything that you've done so far?
Yeah, actually, I had a client once. I'm gonna call them out by name here because I
Yep, no
feel like
problem.
FC Dallas, the soccer organization in Niceville, Florida. Um, they hired me out for an afternoon to photograph,
Right.
and I charged them $400 for I think it was an hour and a half,
Right.
and they never sent me the money after I sent them their photos. And that is where
Whoa.
I decided to institute my deposit requirement, and I do not send out photos before receiving payment because I still have not gotten that $200 a year and a half later.
Damn.
Yep.
Damn, dude. Wow. And then, so that's why everyone make sure you always have your contract signed. Everything should be written in paper. You can never trust too much on handshakes or, just like confirming through basically words. It's always better to protect yourself as a brand or a artist to have everything written in paper. Speaking of which, do you have an LLC? And if you do, how would you recommend? Do you recommend having an LLC for people that are starting out, or should they start one at the beginning or later on?
I don't recommend starting an LLC whenever you start out. Your view might be different on this, but I actually dissolve mine. I just prefer whenever you have an LLC, you have to run your taxes differently,
Right.
and they're like the bane of my existence. I like running it as personal income through my tax lady. I just FreshBooks, wonderful. I love it. You can throw your deductions for your business in FreshBooks, and it
Right.
prints out a little neat like 4-page document that has how much you owe, how much your write-offs took off of that, and how much tax you need to pay for that part of your personal income. And then I hand that to my tax lady along with my W-4s and W-2s from my numerous contracts and jobs that I work. And it's so much nicer than having an LLC that you have to run everything to, because then you're an independent tax entity to yourself, and it just becomes a headache, and I don't like doing that.
Mm, okay, that's actually an interesting take on it because from what I understand, LOCs tend to, there's just like another extra layer of security. If the bank would come after the rest of your money, at least you have that safeguard that separates what you've earned with your business without having to take everything away from you if you were working without an LLC. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I don't know. I like to do my finances a certain way, so I dissolved it. I was like, no, I can't file taxes like this next year,
Right.
so stopped.
Wow, folks, you just heard a great tip from Hunter. You should definitely think about that. Everyone has their own way of doing their business, and this is a great one. I didn't even know that you could do that way because most of the time it's always LLC. But anyways, thank you for sharing that, Hunter. We really appreciate that. Okay, so now where can people find you on your socials?
Hunter Park, HunterParke is my Instagram, and that's pretty much all I post on.
Oh, you don't have a website?
No, I took it down.
How come?
Because I found myself getting too much work.
Wait, what?
Yeah. This happened probably 4 months ago, but
Yeah.
I just ended up so booked that I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna switch back to word of mouth. Because I get enough jobs with that anyways. For weddings and stuff like that. I work
Yeah.
with videographers in Florida, and they have me on call. They're like, "Hey, can you like second shoot or photograph this wedding with me?" And I'm like, "Sure," but just having a website, keeping it up to date, even with Squarespace, it's just I'd rather if someone asks me for my website, I do the cardinal sin of all photographers and I direct them to my Instagram,
Right.
because for me it's like a screening process. If they really, really, really want me to work for them, they're gonna look at my Instagram and be like, "Oh yeah, his work's pretty good." But if they're just like a boomer who's gonna be a bad client, they're just gonna look at my website and be like, "Oh, I'll hire him." I don't know.
Right. Okay, so that's a different method of retaining good clients that you want to work for. That's actually a smart process to see to filter out the ones that are serious and the ones that aren't. Whoa. I'm actually learning
If you
from you,
actually
buddy.
want
Wow,
more
that's
work,
actually crazy. So you are basically if you guys haven't read this book, it's called Oversubscribed by Daniel Priestley. And Hunter right here is actually a great example of someone who's oversubscribed to a point where they don't necessarily have to do a lot of work in obtaining new clients. And so, as you heard, he explained that he already has so much opportunities to get booked to a point where he doesn't have to do any more additional work to find those clients. So that is a definition of he's one of those like, great examples of someone who's being oversubscribed. So if you want to read more books about that, I recommend it. And no, I'm not sponsored by Daniel Priestley. I just love his books. But anyways, Hunter, so this is actually our closing. I was wondering if you have anything else you want to say on your mind when it comes to helping people that are starting out and want to follow in your footsteps. Were there anything else on your mind that you want to tell them?
um, I mean, gear doesn't matter. iPhones are too good these days. Just go and like take a photo on your iPhone. Go do anything. You don't need a Sony A7R II or like You don't need a one wheel to go and video things. That was a big thing back when I was starting out. Like everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, if you want stable video, bro, you need to buy one wheel and you need to buy a gimbal and all this." And I was like, "They don't help that much. I have two one wheels. I don't video. Like, no, you don't need a one wheel. You don't need a Sony, whatever the new camera is, A7C or
Some weird
A7C2
names. Yeah,
or
A7, whatever they are.
A7X5 or whatever the heck they're at now with that. You don't need a color accurate monitor or fancy speakers. You just need your creative vision. People in the 80s made the freaking amazing little Super 8 film reels. They didn't have any of the stuff that we have today. You know?
Yeah.
Like a Super 8 highlight reel of a vacation can get more views than your project that you put like 2 years of your life into. It's all about the soul present in the project. It's not about the equipment and how much you can like how much you love something. That's all that it's about. Just look at the new Star Wars movies. Trash.
I actually agree with that. The new ones that they made out, it's like, what the heck's going on? You can't just beat the classics, you know.
Parke.
But yeah, wow. Okay, well, folks, you heard it from this conversation with Hunter Park. If you, we might have him on another episode. Who knows? We'll see how it goes. But if you like this conversation, don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel as well as podcast. Links to both will be in the description below, and we'll see you in the next one. And again, Hunter, go ahead and share them your socials again one more time.
It's Hunter Parke, HunterParke.
Awesome. All right, guys. This is my name's Keenan Manuel, and this has been Hit Record, the Creative Spotlight with Hunter. I'll see you guys in the next one. And cut.